Right, let's wrap up all of these big international stories this hour. Firstly, the WHO releasing a grim picture on violence against women and girls during the COVID-19 pandemic. It was part of the biggest ever global study undertaken on gender-based violence. And in another breaking news story, Buckingham Palace has released a statement on the behalf of the Queen in reaction to the Duke and Duchess of Sussexes interview with Oprah Winfrey. SABC foreign editor Sophie Mokoena joins me now in the studio to talk about some of these issues and more. Sophie, let's just first start with this. Buckingham Palace breaking its silence on what it says issues of race raised during an interview with Harry and Meghan, saying it's concerning. Do you think that the statement will have an impact on people who've been watching the story with great interest?
Well, of course, people were looking forward to hear from the royal family. How were they going to respond to these allegations? But for me, what is critical is to perhaps monitor the Commonwealth. You know, yesterday it was a Commonwealth Day, and the whole week we have what we call Commonwealth Week, and the Queen is the head of the Commonwealth. And when you look at member states of the Commonwealth, majority are Africans. The English-speaking countries on the continent, countries such as Nigeria, South Africa, Zimbabwe, Ghana, Kenya, and the rest. The question is, the heads of state in the Commonwealth, particularly from Africa, who know very well what colonialism and racism has done to the continent, will they just keep quiet and not say a word in asking hard questions to the Buckingham Palace in terms of what has transpired? For me, that is the main issue, because we know that as the head of state, the Queen is responsible for activities of the Commonwealth and the Commonwealth member countries in the Caribbean region and also on the continent. The Caribbean region, the very same region, which is an ancestral region of Meghan's mother. What are they going to do about this matter? Are they just going to accept when the royal family is saying, we are going to investigate? Are they going to ensure that they follow, they really monitor the investigation, and particularly for justice to be done?
Now, on a second issue, a big report being released earlier today, the WHO releasing this, the biggest ever study into gender-based violence, especially during COVID-19 times. Is it an indictment on leaders of the world? Do you think that there's political will to address this issue?
It is an indictment on the leaders of the world, particularly members of the United Nations. You're talking about 193 countries. Earlier on, responding to the SABC question, Dr. Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka, the executive director of the UN Women, when I asked her about where we are in terms of leaders of the world making a commitment to he for she campaign, she told me that for now, only 30 countries out of 193 countries have made that commitment. Therefore, you cannot say there is a political will to address gender-based violence. Very few countries have laws and regulations that are aimed at addressing this. Even those countries that have regulations and laws, the implementation is bad. That is why today the Director General spoke about this terrible picture. Let's take a listen at what Dr. Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka had to say earlier on.
The 10 countries and head of states that were part of the he for she leaders multiplied into about more than 30 countries that have participated. In most of those countries where we have a he for she champion, we have worked on the police, making the police more gender responsive. We have created training opportunities for the police. As a matter of fact, in the last 2 weeks, we're launching a handbook that we have designed together with the law enforcement agencies that is helping to sensitize and to train and to create a manual standard procedures for dealing with crimes against women. But I cannot say that that has created dramatic reduction of violence against women. It has created more commitment, more efforts in those countries. And we are hoping in the work that we're going to be doing in generation equality, these are some of the countries that we're going to zero on. Or we've also moved in those countries when it comes to passing laws. Almost all of them have passed and adopted laws that address violence against women.
Now, patriarchy and its acceptance, culture also being mentioned as some of the thorny issues that contribute to the scourge of gender-based violence. Sophie, is society in itself doing enough to address these issues?
Well, you had earlier on Sarakimani presenting a package where she attended an event in Kenya where the leadership in Kenya and the community were launching a program and a campaign to deal with harmful culture. It is a problem not only in East Africa, in all the regions of Africa. And today, Dr. Tedros issued a strong warning to countries that are continuing to do this, even giving an example of what was happening in Ethiopia and saying that Ethiopia has worked hard to try and address this problem. Because indeed, in some communities, talking about gender-based violence and women and children who are being abused is a taboo. Let us listen to what Dr. Tedros had to say.
I remember, when the age of marriage was enacted in Ethiopia, the minimum age, to fight using legal instruments to fight child marriage. And child marriage continued because parents were cooperating, because the society was taking it as it's okay. So that's it. So we need to understand that, try to address it at its root. Without the involvement of the community or appreciation by the community and understanding that it hurts their women and their girls and that they should be part of the solution, it could be difficult to address it. Even when you have a law, you can't enforce it because it's the norm. So a comprehensive approach will be very, very important, starting from prevention, and then, of course, when it happens, including law to, take action or to punish the perpetrators.
Now, this report coming out at a time when countries are funding a lot of their monies towards fighting COVID-19. What is the impact of lack of funding, especially on UN women programs or campaigns to address gender-based violence?
Clearly, countries are now focusing on addressing the challenge of COVID-19, this pandemic. And you saw earlier on when countries were making announcements on stimulus, many made those announcements looking at building the economy. But when you look at the recovery plans, are they engendered? No. And women, when the money is being distributed, how many women will benefit or have benefited in terms of building their capacity to be independent on economic issues? It is a problem. When you look at addressing gender violence, clearly it's going to take a backseat. There's no way they will think about gender violence that is currently a pandemic on its own. Therefore, it is up to women around the world to stand up and fight and ensure that this matter receive attention like the issue of the economy. Because when women are not enjoying all the benefits and all the freedoms in their country or their respective countries, there's no way the world will address even the very same COVID-19 pandemic. You look at what's happening currently, you look at workplace, gender violence is there, discrimination is there. Women have regressed in terms of even their appointments. I think this is the time for women to work together and stand up, because women constitute the largest portion of the population around the world, even in their respective countries. They have a political power in terms of vote. They have a buying power in terms of the economy. They must use that power correctly so that the powers they have must benefit them.
Gender-based violence under the spotlight following that release by the WHO. Our foreign editor, Sophie Mokoena, of course, our foreign desk also keeping a sharp eye on news out of the UK. Buckingham Palace finally breaking its silence on reports of violence directed against one particular woman, and that is Meghan Markle, who is the Duchess of Sussex. We'll keep you updated on their response to that interview, saying that they are concerned, particularly on issues around race, and that the three, Harry, Meghan and Archie, remain very much part of loved family members of the monarchy.